Here we go.
Chcesz mieć pierwszy i zdrowszy uśmiech od pierwszego dnia? Oral-B IO i Oral-B intensywne wybieranie to idealna kombinacja.
Alright. Hello, this is AJ Production, and today we're reviewing from my favorite movie, The Great Discovery. Now, with many fans want to release for my birthday, but I decided in September, in June. But hey, in June, let's get on to it. The special season I've been waiting for. Co?
Festiwal pizzy w Pizza Hut już trwa.
Ja pracuję.
Ile chcesz? Próbuj nowych smaków.
Here we go. Talk about the rough time. After the season 11 was very impressive to me, the Great Discovery, give it a tone of melatonin.
This will be one of the rare times in the retrospective series where we cover the special after the season's overview. This is, I think, the only time the connected special takes place after the season. Usually the special kicks off the season, but not this time, for the Great Discovery is Model Thomas's
Endgame.
This movie revolves around Thomas getting lost and stumbling across an abandoned town in the mountains called Great Waterton. Upon its rediscovery, Sir Topham Hatt wants it rebuilt and puts Thomas in charge of the job. Thomas takes great pride in his new position, but grows jealous of a new engine called Stanley, who arrives to cover his usual work. Stanley becomes popular with the others, and Thomas becomes insecure about being pushed aside. He decides to knock Stanley down a peg by giving him too many trucks one day. However, this backfires when the trucks break away and demolish the tower in Great Waterton. This severely delays reconstruction and turns everyone's opinions of Thomas south once the truth comes out. Thomas tries to make it up to everyone by working late hours, and this leads to him getting stuck in a mine and having a terrible tumble. With Thomas missing, all work stops as the search begins. Stanley is the one who finds Thomas and rescues him. The two make amends and help each other. With everyone safe again, reconstruction resumes, and Great Waterton is restored in time for Sodor Day. The movie's original title, Leader of the Track, remains in the form of the final line said by Thomas at the very end of the movie.
He had wanted to be the leader of the track, but we're all leaders of the track, puffed Thomas proudly. And he couldn't have been happier.
This movie was made to celebrate and mark the end of the series being an all-model production in a grand way. Because for season 12 onwards, elements of CGI would be brought in to animate the engine's faces and people. As a sort of last hurrah, so many characters from across the series were dug out and given some time in the spotlight. All the narrow gauge engines appear here, several of the secondary characters, even Diesel 10 gets a quick blinky you'll miss it cameo in the back. They saw this as an opportunity to dig out the back characters again. They were worked into the story to help out with the reconstruction of the town. I think this notion to kind of bring back all the characters was also worked into season 11 to some degree, considering all of the secondaries that we saw get focus. I love that this movie used the opportunity to give us a little lore about the island of Sodor's beginnings, filling us in on what life was like back then.
When steam engines first came to Sodor, this was the main town. It was called Great Waterton. The waterworks here provided water for everyone.
Hey? Hey! No. Oh, but please hurry up. We don't have reviewing for Great Discovery. Hurry up. Thank you.
Pierce Brosnan as narrator
has a new narrator.
From the two
Michaels.
While he is not my
Thank God with the Power moment.
favorite narrator,
Anyway, so the Pierce Brosnan was a new narrator.
For this era of the show. I really appreciate his attempts at all
Like
the
a
different voices and accents
respect
for
on the character.
Mr. Percival says
Like
that
Duncan.
because you mainline engines don't know the tracks in the hills, restoration.
Like Gordon.
That is when you make something
very old who look new again, and Emily.
Whistled Emily.
I particularly love
They
that
have
smug,
the smug
posh type of
jowls
voice
on
that he gives
James.
James.
I've
Because
just met the new engine.
he's a number
called
5.
Stanley. He's very friendly. Everyone likes him.
There's a sort of quietness to Pierce's narration, almost like he's speaking
Mm,
softly,
mm.
reading it as a
That
bedtime
I told you
story to
for
a child.
Thomas felt
children.
terrible. He knew why he'd done it, but he couldn't tell the Fat Controller and the other engines. He felt too ashamed. So
He said nothing.
He says as much in his interview.
I sit in this booth, and I have the story in front of me, and I basically tell the story as if I was talking to my own son or daughter, who's 4 or 5, and you try to have as much of an intimate relationship with your voice and the person or the people, the children, the parents who are listening to you.
And it worked perfectly, especially in this era of the show where the stories were more tailored to younger kids than before.
And Neville is what? Is he?
He is in many regards similar to
Like
Thomas. He's new to Sorrow.
like Michaelangelos.
You see him asking about what type of personality each character has, so he knows how to deliver a voice for them. Even for nothing characters like Neville. He took
Neville
care and
or
showed a
Murdoch.
genuine respect for the series and its characters. We
Yeah,
respect both of the Michaels
Michael.
for their long work on the show, of course, but you can tell in their inconsistent performances during these later years that they were really starting to not really care as time went on.
And that means I can be
A really useful engine.
And that means I can be a
Really
useful
useful.
engine.
While the initial
Imagine
reception
if Freddy.
of Pierce from general audiences was a
Imagine
bit
that.
mixed, I personally think he was
That
the
it perfect in the
change-up that the show needed at this time. The set design
set
here is
design
also
was
notably impressive.
very
A real step up from
the
what we usually
goats.
see in the hit era. The overgrown
I mean,
abandoned
I
town
like
looks
this.
great.
I like
All
the
the
scenes
mountain
of
locations are so grand
Discovery,
looking, and the whole
Mission,
mine scene in
or
general
and
is
coal
really well
mining
done.
was
So
very
much work went into
special
these
to
stunt
me.
sets that
Like
only appear on screen for
coal
about a second
mines
each.
are
Compared to the
very
humdrum season 11, it's clear to see where
very
everyone's efforts really went this
very
year.
important in a
Just like
duck
in
in
Calling All
the
Engines
mine.
before, the songs
Like,
in this movie
it
are
has
all
new
cohesive
one
and
like
really
Racing
catchy.
to the Wolf,
Jobs of
Just
Plenty
a
lives
Plenty,
rent-free in my head
and
now.
Thomas.
Unlike Calling
And
All
of course,
Engines,
our bonus
most of the
features,
songs actually have a point this
leader
time.
of the
They're not
track.
simply just recaps of what we just saw and interrupt the flow of the story. They are more organically worked into the story. Jobs of Plenty is used as a montage to show the reconstruction of Great Waterton, and Where Oh Where Is Thomas is a montage showing the
Grand Search of Thomas.
Musical numbers are an efficient
Very
way to show the passage of time
the
quickly.
time
Which was to great
quickly.
effect here. The only exception is Thomas and James are racing, which does not have a point at all, considering the race really meant nothing in the grand scheme of the story. Still pretty catchy though. The grand finale song, Thomas You're the Leader, is a first for the series, transitioning into a new era of rock and rap styled songs with a lead singer. The first song to not feature a child chorus.
But this time, it's by
While
Chris
I think it's a
Maiden
little
in
repetitive
shout.
towards the end, I think it totally works
Uh.
as a swan song for the model era of the show. A grand musical goodbye to this era.
To
And
wish
speaking
you
of
have.
which, I also want to
His
quickly note how
gold,
much I
it
appreciate the
must
movie
be today
isn't
to the
bogged down
learning
in learning
segment and
segments
it's obviously.
sprinkled throughout,
So,
like Calling All Engines was.
we get
If
in
indeed there's some for it, then
final
the restraint to make
Thomas
them simply
Eco
bonus features on the DVD.
on
Took time to
user of
interrupt the
Luke.
story for
Take
you.
away,
I'm very
Luke!
happy that they did that.
Thomas has had a
Hey,
very up and down history in terms
in
of
the
how
Great
consistent his
Discovery.
character was. In the beginning, with Series 1,
So here we go
followed
again.
his
So here we
journey
go
as per
again.
the books. A cheeky,
Cheeky,
egotistical prick who
prick.
wanted more from life than just being a station
Pilot.
pilot. I'm tired of pushing coaches. I want to see the world. But had to learn humility through trials and tribulations to gain the Fat Controller's trust. So, on the day where he was needed in an emergency, he sprung into action and proved himself as reliable and really useful, earning himself a branch line that he's had ever since. But just because he proved himself once didn't mean he was a completely changed engine yet. He still had plenty to learn. He was only as well behaved and useful as the incident with James allowed him to be, because after that, even with his branch line, he was still just as cocky, impatient, and rude as ever. If we hurried across the viaduct, it might collapse. And then you'd have no passengers at all. What would you do then? Run my train on time for one thing, retorted Thomas. This would continue throughout the next few series with mishap after mishap after mishap, slowly allowing him to grow and mature over time. We started to see a more friendly and cheerful Thomas, a wiser engine who was prepared to help his friends without complaint. You don't know what I
Suffer mode, Henry.
Rubbish, said Thomas. You're too fat, you need exercise. I don't feel well at all. Don't worry, said Thomas kindly. I'll help out if you're ill. Even if he was still
They're
cheeky
still
from time to time,
cheeky
that
and
was okay
cocky, like
because we loved
they're
that about him.
classic.
Shunted. And on my
By
own
the
ranch
season
too,
1 and
it's a
2,
disgrace.
season 5,
Ghost
season
must
5,
the old warrior
the
goes
old
every
warrior.
night. He lights his fire, then goes hunting.
They go hunting.
Goodbye.
Tutu, bye bye.
Small, teeny, weeny, weeny. And I'm a big blue engine who knows everything.
Bossy sprockets! All that steam was going to your funnel!
Series 8 or so onwards, once Hit put their infamous Writer's Bible into effect, was where things started to fall apart. We were treated to a new
Treated
Thomas
like a
who, depending
child.
on his role in the episode's story, would flip-flop between the wise, all-knowing friend who can solve all your problems to a lethal, energetic kid on a sugar rush, sometimes with an IQ that begins with a 0 and a decimal point. Sometimes the thing you want is somewhere you wouldn't think to look. Puffed Thomas. Thomas screeched to a halt. The chickens in the vans flapped and squawked across them. It was like
Ay,
the
ay,
two sides
ay,
of
what
Thomas's
are you
character
doing,
were
boy?
each dialed up to 110% with no balance. If Thomas was the main character, he would usually be the hothead with a frustratingly low intelligence. If he was a supporting character, he was usually smarter than the
just
ones who
listen
were meant
to
to
him.
be smarter than him. There were a couple of episodes where he was written true to himself, but overall it was one way or the other with the guy. Granted, out of the rest of the main cast, his inconsistencies weren't as drastic as someone like Edward, Toby, or
Edward,
Scarlowi. But when you're
Henry,
the title
or
character,
Scarlowi.
it's pretty hard not to notice if the manner in which you're written fluctuates so often. Not only does The Great Discovery write Thomas as much like his classic self than we've seen of him in years, a good friend
Thank
to
God we
others but still
did
egotistical and
record
cheeky
him.
from time to time, but this story gives us, what should have been at least, the final time Thomas lets his ego get the better of him. The very last time where Thomas really fucks up. He starts off with a small boost to his
He's
confidence
starting
when
off
he
with
wins the race
being
with James,
the
something he
youngest.
holds on to when talking
He's
with
talking to
Duncan, teasing
Duncan.
him whenever he can, and
Whenever
feeling
he
challenged
can.
when Duncan
He's
says he's too scared to cross
smart.
Rolling River Bridge.
Bridge.
Upon discovering
On a
Great Waterton and getting a
great-
huge pat on the back from the Fat Controller to a point where he's put in charge of all the work, his boosted ego is now at an all-time
Yeah.
high, in a way that no doubt felt the same when he was promoted from station pilot to running his own branch line all those years ago. Stanley arrives, he feels threatened by the new guy in town and starts overworking himself to keep his job when it was never going to be taken away from him to begin with. So when this leads to him losing that job, he feels cheated, like he isn't important unless everyone else is looking up to him. He slips into old habits and plays a trick on Stanley that only leads himself in trouble that could have been easily avoided. Thomas, just as he has been several times in the past, is now truly in disgrace, ruining Sodor's biggest celebration yet and disappointing everyone around him in the process. He tries to make amends by working late, but it's going to take more than tidying up his own mess for him to change his ways. Again, he's only being as good as doing this job allows him to be. Who's to say he won't just go back to his old ways following this? And so, Thomas is unknowingly presented with one final challenge. What is about to be a visual metaphor for his desire to chase a life of thinking himself better than everyone else in the world. Morgan's mine. Thomas bumps the last truck too hard and it disappears into the mine. The work is done and it's just one truck, but Thomas decides to go inside and find it anyway. Almost like an itch in his head that won't be scratched unless everyone knows he's done the job 100% successfully. The deeper he goes into the mine, he ends up running down a steep slope and thus begins the roller coaster of his life. The further he goes into the mine, the further away he strays from the outside world, from his friends. But being so rushed on adrenaline and only looking ahead to see what's next, he loses and forgets about the truck he's chasing. He forgets about getting out of the tunnel. He forgets about his friends. It seems like this good feeling will never end, and endless time chasing a need to feel good, to feel special, like nothing could possibly
You
take
go
that away.
wrong. Okay.
If you go too
Far and
you will
get
eventually
worse,
stuck in this
maybe it
isolated
comes
life
to an
for
end.
yourself. A pathway
A
where
pathway,
all
but
you do is fall
we do
further
the
and
falling
further
and
into
falling into
the
darkness.
cold, away
We
from your
could
home,
away to your friends, away to your family, away to
back where things
your
made
boss.
sense and weren't scary.
Gary.
But it's too late.
It's too late
You
again.
unknowingly did this to yourself. You chose a life of looking out for only yourself, and so now, in your deepest, darkest despair, you feel as though nobody will want to save you.
No one will find me now, Thomas wailed. No one will want to find me.
So begins the endless cycle. A life that pushes you
life
helplessly
further
further
and further into darkness.
Going
Faster
faster
and
and faster,
faster.
feeling as though you can't even keep track of time anymore. It spins you around violently, suffocates you in rushing cold water. All the while, you are paralyzed and can't escape it, disconnected from the real world for what feels like forever.
Until then, he brought up bushes and a grass again.
Just when you can't take
it anymore.
you'll crash
We
once
crash
again.
once
While the agony
more.
of the dark cave is
Over.
It's
It's
still
still
a
and
terrifying
terribly.
tunnel as you fall down to rock bottom. There is a way out of this, a way back to the life you had before,
Away back to your friends.
right within your grasp. But beaten and bruised from your own actions, you have no strength to bring yourself back. The chaos of the mine is over. And everything is quiet. All you can do is wait, alone with your thoughts.
And waited.
Only in your lowest of lows will you fully realize that you were in the wrong.
I wish I hadn't made Stanley
Because of the fake cards, but none of this what happened.
like him doing my job.
And now what happened?
Now look where I am.
I'm still just the same old silly little
The same
engine.
realization that will allow you to reach out for help from not just any old
Friend
friend
or
or
stranger, but the very person.
you felt was trying to make you seem lesser. They never were your worst enemy. They
No,
never have been.
they never have
never
been,
will be.
and they never
If you're
happened.
willing to accept that
This
help, to go back
is
to the
where
life
you
you once took
used
for
to be,
granted, then the
and
two
make
of you,
you
maybe,
just be
can become
friends
friends.
again. No,
Stanley,
no czego.
dude, Thomas.
Potrzebuję ten telefon na zajęcie. Ładuj.